Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sydney Bushnell, aka Numbers here from Psych Club and the Tom Numbers Show. And I haven't done a show for a while, just me and a guest. So it's great to have LEILANI back on the show. Thanks for coming, LEILANI. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm really good.
I like your cap. That's why we're here to talk about Make America Great Again. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I thought I'd wear it because I know just after the elections, he said you wanted to have a little chat about it all. So I thought, put my hat on.
Exactly. Have you got a red one as well?
I do. I got them both. I got both of them.
Where'd you get them
So,
from?
so actually, I was in America and I did try and get an official one. I want to say that because the dark MAGA actually has black on black, and it was going to take so long to arrive. I just went on Amazon and I got two on Amazon delivered to me really cheap. So I did want to
Okay.
support and get the official ones, but
Yeah.
actually then I got told that these ones fit better. The official ones are really like kind of big and for
For big
big
heads.
heads.
I got a big head, so I'll probably go on tight. I haven't worn a cap for a while. I should get one. Yeah. I've been thinking about this for a while as well. Maybe do like make England great again, make
Mega, we
Europe great
need
again.
it.
Mega, yeah. AJ's been coming up with that as well. But I sent him
Yeah.
a. I did the numbers on it about back in July or June of 2023. So I was like, yeah, people are picking up on the. Yeah, we should go around with those
We
mega hat,
do. We need a
mega.
mega hat because something's got to change here, I tell you.
I know. It's all a bit Pete Tong, isn't it? It's all a bit bonkers. It's all a bit bonkers. So, yeah, when you put the tweet out, I thought it was really great because you were basically saying it's great that Trump's in. People are thinking different things, but you were saying we need to be. This is positive for the world, and that's what I really liked. I really liked that sentiment because it is. It's amazing. It's positive. And I had friends and family that aren't. They're not really into like what we're doing, but I had people that were close to me, but also people I haven't heard from a while, just popping up and saying, "Oh, it's great that
Yeah.
he's in." So there's this
Yeah.
kind of underlying feeling of positivity that people are they're embracing. And even in numbers. So obviously I'm Tom Numbers, and it's A is the first letter, B is the second, C is the third. So if you spell the word positive, it actually comes to 115. If you spell the whole word positive, and the election date was 11/5, November 5th. So
Interesting.
yeah, positive. Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I was really happy. I was really, really happy when I got the news. My fiance had just done a concert the night before. He was fast asleep, and I was looking on my phone, and I was like, oh, I can't move or do anything or say anything because I'm going to wake him up. So as soon as he woke up, I like just jumped out of bed. And I was so happy because to me, it represents change and it
mm,
represents hope. Now, I know there'll be people that don't necessarily like Trump, or there'll be people that still, have conservative views, maybe, or people that want to see change, but they don't particularly like him, or they don't see him, like I don't see him as the savior of the world or anything like that. But what it represents to me is now there's hope, and now that there can be some change.
yeah.
And I think having that positivity and having the hope is so important because, what's the alternative? Kamala got in, and it would just be censorship and, um, everything would
If
just
you
be
turn the
going
lights
downhill.
off, it'd be like, all right, we'll go home now.
Yeah, exactly. It would
Yeah,
have been really bad. So it doesn't matter, whether you like Trump or you hate Trump, as long as you're not like a Kamala supporter, then you should just be happy that,
yeah,
there's a potential now for some change. He's got a great team with RFK Jr. wanting to make America healthy
yeah.
again. So important, and the problem is we just keep hearing the word, oh, but they're all puppets, but they're all this. But you know what? We can't just keep in this low, negative, unhappy situation. If we can't just take a little win and get a bit of hope and hope there can be some change, what's the point? What's the point?
Exactly, exactly. You know what? It's interesting when you just the things you just said then. So um, I said the positive is 11/5. That was November 5th. And then if you add the word election, 83, you add positive plus the election comes to 198, which comes to President Trump in numbers. So that's a positive. And then when you said about the savior, and I was like, okay, so the savior, that comes to 138, which comes to LEILANI Dowding, that comes to your name, and it comes to Donald Trump as well, 138. So it's like depends, how people want to look at things. But the overriding feeling that I agree with is it's a wonderful positive move globally. And you look at all
Yeah,
the things that started to take place within the first 24 and 48 hours before he
yeah.
even came into office.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I think it was a little sober. I think I was really happy for about a week, and then it kind of got a little bit sobering that I'm not actually in America. I am
Yeah.
here in England
Were you
under
here in England
peace.
when the election took place, or were you out in
Yes. No,
Europe?
no,
Okay.
I was here. I was here. I didn't, do you know, I went to sleep thinking, oh, we're not going to know the results for ages
Yeah.
because, we saw how it was in 2020 and it took, a bit of time, didn't it, with all the
Yeah.
cheating
Yeah.
going on and the vote counting and the postal
Yeah.
votes. It took a
Yeah.
while for the results to come in, but I woke up in the morning, the results were in. I was really joyful for the long, and then I did think, God, I do live in England. We do live under Starmer. What's going to happen? But you can see now there's talk about how, JD Vance has said, look, we need allies that share the same values as us. We need to
Mm.
see people that don't want to censor, and we might have to, punish those that do. So let's see what happens. Maybe, it kind of forces the UK and Starmer to stop trying their attempts to censor because we
Yeah.
need we need America. Then I just think it's great. He got in and he said, right, we don't want to be part of the WHO anymore. Now we saw that he did that the last time. He pulled out the WHO, right?
Yeah.
It was Biden that put the USA back in. I think it would be a great move to pull back out the
Oh yeah.
WHO again, and I'm sure there'll be other things that he does that with. But I'm really, really hopeful with RFK in charge of health, and
Yeah.
he wants to take down big pharma and big agri. That's been his goal for
Yeah.
years.
Tallow and raw milk and all this good stuff, and yeah, and the team he's putting. You know what? So I like to go to the movies, and they've been showing all these old films. And last week they put on Team America World Police, that puppet one, I think from the South puppet. Now I watched it years ago and I didn't really resonate with it. But I was like, okay, I think there's going to be something. So I went along and watched it, and there was a lot of parallels with the stuff we're in now, and particularly when, like you've alluded to, this great team he's bringing together. I was like, it is like Team America. It's like the Avengers. It's like Trump's team of all these people.
And I love Tulsi Gabbard. I love Tulsi Gabbard as well. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You
She's like
see.
what's her name? Jean Grey in X-Men. She's even got the white streak. It's like that's Jean Grey.
It's
Yeah,
crazy. She's so great. She's like such an inspiration. And you see, it's funny because these are people that she's somebody that's come from the left
yeah,
and switched just because of the insanity of it all.
yeah.
And it is a switch. It's like Rob, RFK Jr., he came from the left as well
Mm,
to join because he sees the insanity of it all. And it's like there's been this major shift where liberal doesn't actually, it's like the inversion of the word. They're not the
yeah,
liberals, the so-called liberals, the
yeah,
Democrats, they're not actually. You see them wanting war. They're not against the war. They're all for the war.
yeah,
And you just see like such an inversion of how the left or the liberals or people it's like inversions of the word. It's crazy
yeah.
how it's gone. So it's great to see them on the team. And then you have, I'm going to forget his name, the guy with the tattoo, the very Christian tattoo that they went, all the lefties
Oh
went
yeah,
nuts saying he was a
yeah,
Nazi. Peter, I can't
yeah.
remember his last name.
The army guy, the military guy. Yeah, Knights Templar. That is. That's what they say.
So,
I've been talking about that for a while. That was really good. That was positive, and yeah,
it dates back to the Crusades. So,
yeah,
because I had a look, I'm like, what's this?
mm,
They keep calling it this like white nationalist
yeah,
tattoo, but it's actually a Christian tattoo. I looked it up and I'm like, well,
mm,
let me see what it means.
yeah,
I looked it up. So you can see they're just, they're going a little bit crazy. And to me, I think it's all good. I love the team.
yeah,
Like I said, I don't put all my faith that politicians are gonna save us all. but it gives us hope that we can now step up and do something for ourselves. We can speak out. We're not going to get censored as much. Well, you know, if you're American.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't going to say, and you can feel freer to speak up and be yourself and say something and say, hold on a minute, enough is enough.
Yeah.
So, you know, we now that they've, you know, come into power or they're about to take, it's up to us now to step up and, you know, help push it along by being open, honest, and saying how we feel and showing which side we're on.
Definitely. You know, the thing with RFK, so about a year, I think it was June or July again of last year, not in 2023. So I was thinking that RFK and Trump would. I said in the video that they're together, they're working on the same team, but it will appear that they're kind of. And I said that they would join. They didn't join exactly in the way that I thought. I thought it might be just like neck and neck, like somehow RFK against Trump. And then they did the kind of bit where they were just kind of saying stuff against each other. I was like, okay, that's not really going to work. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they joined. And I was like, and I looked back at the video that I did, and I was like, I said that they would join. They're on the same team, and they are.
Yeah.
They're on the Team America. They're on the same team, which was incredible. And that thing with, like you said, you looked at the tattoo going back to the Crusades. The words on Knights Templar. If you do Knights Templar, that's 173 in numbers. So if you spell the two words. Knight is actually 88, Trump. Templar is 85, Storm, Awakening. So it's like Trump, Storm, Trump, Awakening. And you talked about RFK. So his uncle, JFK, and the anniversary of his passing is in 2 days' time. And it will be 61 years ago. 61's a miracle. But if you were to condense RFK's birthday through to his date of assassination. So his birthday was May 29th, and it happened on a non-leap year. So the year is the same. And 1963 wasn't a leap year. But if you were to put all those into 1 year, LEILANI, it would be actually 173 days, which goes back to the Knights Templar, it goes back to the tattoo, it goes back to Trump's Storm. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And another one that Trump always used to say in 2020, and I guess beyond, but mainly in 2020, he'd always deliberately misspeak about the Spanish flu. Do you remember when he'd say, it's like, you know, Corona's like the Spanish flu? And everyone knows, well, not everyone, but you look it up, Spanish flu was 1918. But Trump would always deliberately misstate that, and he'd say 1917. 1917 was the year that JFK was born. And it's also in Back to the Future when Biff gets the almanac, the sports betting book, in the car with his younger self, and they tune into the sports result, and it comes up 1917, which is, again, a soft disclosure to JFK. But I always felt the Trumps and Kennedys were on the same team, and now they are. It's like, they're there. And this Knights Templar thing has been going on for ages. And I remember I've spoken about that like a handful of times over the last few years, but when I saw that with what's his name with the tattoo, it was like
Peter Hegseth. I've just had to look it up.
Yeah.
So he's going to be Secretary of Defense.
He's the Secretary of Defense, and he's basically he's a young military guy, isn't he? That's what he is.
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You've got all these people complaining about that, then you've got people complaining about RFK Jr. being Health Secretary, but actually look at who was in before that. I can't use the word that I usually. The Rachel Levin, the dude, was in there before. So you want to like complain about RFK Jr. when you've got like this mentally ill dude in, you know? It's like.
I know. That's the thing. He's putting the right people in, isn't he? He's like.
And you know, the new borders are. He's like,
I know,
great.
Tom Holman. My ears always prick up when he says that. Tom is like, and he's no messing, isn't he? He's like, no. What was it? AOC said to him, so what about you don't want to separate families at the border? He said, no, we'll just send all of them home. It's like, no, we can send all of them home. Don't worry about them being left on their own. We'll send the whole lot home.
Yeah. And I just think it's so important. It's so important now that they lead the way and they show, you know, how it should be done and how it needs to be done. Because as you know, it's an agenda, isn't it? It's an attack on whatever we're getting attacked on here in the UK, whether it's free speech or the farmers or the borders, you know, is happening all over the West. So it's really important that we see one country at least crack down. We've seen that the Italian leader, she wasn't able to deport people because, of course, the EU is saying, no, 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 you can't send these people back to Egypt. Egypt's so bad, they can't, it's against their human rights. So we're seeing that. But let's see someone now in the West actually do it. And it's time for, America to lead the way and really crack down on everything. And then hopefully we see how well it goes, and we need to do the same. We really do.
Were you at the farmers event yesterday?
I was.
Clarkson and Andrew and yeah. How was
Yeah.
that?
You know what? It was really busy. It was really good. It was an amazing turnout. I got to the train
Was it at
station,
Parliament Square? Where was it? Or Trafalgar or where was it?
Whitehall. It was at
Whitehall.
Whitehall.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, as you know, I've been to like numerous protests the last 5 years, but I think this was probably the busiest I've seen. I got to my train station, the the platform was full of farmers. You could tell the way they dress, their wellies, they're like, smart,
Yeah.
khaki clothing. You could tell they were farmers. And the train was packed. I had to stand the whole journey down to London, an hour and a half, because it was just rammed full. Everyone, all the seats
Wow.
were taken. People had to stand. I've never experienced that before. There's always, it wasn't even rush hour, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
like people were getting there for work for 9 a.m. It was a train that got in at 10:30. So it was absolutely rammed. And then I arrived slightly after 11 o'clock. It was always due to start at 11.
Mm.
And you couldn't get near the stage. It was rammed. And I'm talking about people being packed like sardines, to the point where I'm like, I'm glad these are civilized people, because if there was a push, it would have
Yeah.
probably been quite dangerous. So, like I said, I've been to all these rallies before, and you can usually wander in and out the crowds and there's space.
Yeah.
Like, this was really hard. And another thing, unlike a lot of the protests we've seen, and counter protests where people show up with the same, banners and placards, obviously
Blackguards. Yeah.
being
Yeah.
paid for by some large company with some money behind it. You can see everyone's was different. Everyone had their own message. They were handwritten. People had come and brought them from wherever they were from around the country.
Yeah.
And you can see it was a very organic protest. Discussion. And I actually learned a lot. There were a lot of things that I learned that I hadn't thought about or taken into account, even with regards to larger landowners. I'm not talking about the corporations and investment companies that are coming out to buy. I'm talking about, people that have had land in their families for years, but then they rent it out to tenant farmers. Now, I think when the government made their estimations on the number of farms it would affect, or farmers, and their
Yeah.
low estimations, which still to me, 500 a year, this is the government numbers, 500 a year means basically 10 farms a week that are going to be affected. That's a lot of farms every week being affected by these new changes. That doesn't take into account the fact that, there might be tenant farmers on these people's lands that rent the land to farm because, the owners of the land rent it out to farmers in order to get the benefit of
Right.
not paying it. So if they're not renting it to farmers, if they're not getting the benefit, sorry, of the inheritance tax, not having to pay inheritance tax because they're renting it out cheaply to farmers, then what's the incentive to rent it to farmers? They could rent it out to people like me who will use it for a hobby or for their horses or for
Yeah.
something not related to farming. So you see the other side that, there are way more people that are actually going to be affected by these changes than in the government estimates. And then DEFRA has come out and said that about 63 to 67% of farms will be affected, not just this like 500 a year. So, there was a lot that I learned. And, it was all broken down a little bit more and a little bit better for people like me who, and I was there because, I have a small holding. So I have this little bit of guilt because, it was an old dairy farm that we live on that's now no longer a farm. And because it's no longer a farm, it's not used for farming. Obviously, none of this applies to me. I have no skin in the game other than the fact that I eat food and I don't want to pay extortionate prices for British food. So I have no skin in this game. I wouldn't have benefited from the old rules. So, but what I do see is, what I'm trying to tell people is that, you hear the counter argument that it's like, well, that's great because these landowners have to sell and then it will give a chance for other farmers to buy the land. No, it won't. It will give a chance for people to take over the farms, split them up, build houses on them, put solar farms on them, put wind farms on them, because they're no longer getting the benefit of using that land simply for farming. So, and it's like I heard a great analogy as well. It's like if you were to go to Dragon's Den and go, hey, I've got a proposal. You invest 3 million, land, a tractor, some barns for my sheep or my cows. You invest 3 million and I'll give you the entire profit, which is 0.5% return. You get laughed at. Do you know what I mean? It's not a great investment, farming, unless you have the benefit of being able to pass it down to your heirs who are going to continue farming because that's the way they've been brought up and that's all that family kind of knows. I got friends who are farmers and the kids are like, they know how to drive tractors at like 11 years old. It's big, enormous machines, and they know, it's something that's passed down, and you can't just do a quick college course and learn how to farm and use all the machinery and take care of the animals and everything else.
It's in their blood, and it's in their DNA. Yeah.
So yeah.
When are these changes supposed to take place then, or are they already in?
No, I think they're changing 2026. I don't know what month in 2026, but 2026. So they've got a bit of time
They've got a bit of time then.
To try and reverse the decision. And both say the two opposition parties have said they support the farmers. They would never do it. They would reverse the decisions. Whether or not you believe them, I don't know. I'm inclined to believe Reform more than I believe the Conservatives, but both parties also have said that they think that Labour should reverse the decision, and if they don't, that they would themselves if they got in next time. So, we'll see.
We'll see. It's the beginnings of many other things, I think, isn't it?
But you can see, it's very Stalin-like, making the farmers out to be the enemy, which is what Stalin did, and then the government took control of the production of food, and then what happens? People starve. Or the big investment companies come in just and buy all the farmland up, just like they did our water. And look how disgusting and dirty and shitty, no pun intended, our water is. It's disgusting. They're putting sewage in the rivers, increasing the prices. And look at our energy companies, because it's you can't trust these corporations to do the right thing and keep everything going nicely and healthily.
No. As you're describing the stuff with the farmers, it's making me think about going back to, communities, the farmers instead of the big corporations. And I think it feels like that's where it's going to eventually go. There might be some twists and turns and battles and all the rest of it. I think that's probably a precipitator for where eventually things will go, that will be more sovereign as local communities, as smaller groups, as opposed to the Big Brother effect, which needs to be disbanded, doesn't it? Everywhere.
Yeah.
That needs to be disbanded. That needs to be uprooted and stopped.
I mean, people need to see it. It's happening in America. It's what RFK Jr. is fighting against, big agriculture. And by big agriculture, I mean corporations taking care of all the farming or looking after all the farming or buying all the farmland up. And it's like, the pork industry in America is mainly owned by the Chinese. Then you've got about four or five poultry companies that really have control over what the farmers are doing. They're not really sovereign to themselves. They put all these they're like, you need to produce this much, and if you can't produce this much, and we can't buy off you, but what we can do is we can give you loans so that you can build bigger chicken houses and have more intensively farmed chickens. And this is what happens when you have big corporations controlling the farming, and then obviously the quality of the food goes down, the care of the animals goes down. You know, and you don't see it as you don't, you know, when I was in America, you don't see the animals out the way you see them out in England. And I, you know, I don't even eat meat, but I still support our British farmers because I do see the cows out in fields on green pasture, the dairy cows, the beef cows. I do see, you know, the chickens aren't. I rescued two hens from an egg farm. And I say
There you go,
rescue.
mother hen. Yeah.
I got these two hens from a chicken farm because it was the end of, they only keep them there for like 18 months and hens can live to like 10 years. So they had to rehome these chickens. And they were, you know, I expected these scruffy looking featherless chickens and they were great. They looked in good condition. They'd obviously been very well cared for,
Yeah.
very well fed. And so, you know, this is why I'm going to back British farming all the way.
Yeah. And I think it will ripple into other areas. Like as you're talking about it and about sovereignty of, like the council comes to mind. It's like, I don't know about you, but you know Bournemouth. I think they're bust down here. They don't fix the roads, they don't do the hedges, nothing. And then they're just this that you can't get them to do anything. I had to call them up about something recently and we're still waiting for a reply. And because government is governing of the mind. That's what it is. It's telling people, no, you can't do that. And people are still, oh, it's like, well, hang on. This is an invisible entity that is lazy. They're bankrupt. They're not doing anything. They're letting things go to waste. The people locally can just take care of it. Oh, no, we've got to get permission from them. That's all
Yeah.
bullshit. That needs to totally go out the window. And I
That's
think the thing with the farmers it will trigger other things.
And that's the thing as well, that that's what now I'm not going to be able to say what I know the acronym's Dodge, but that's what they're doing, isn't it, in America with Elon and
Yeah, Doge, yeah,
Ramsey.
Department of Government Expenditure. Yeah,
Yeah, they're going to try and
yeah,
lessen it because
yeah.
this is the problem. Like you said, there's all this bureaucracy and red tape, and the councils can't do anything, and they're spending their money
There's no
on
one in there.
stupid things.
There's no one here. It takes you about half an hour to get through to a department. You do get, and then they're like at home. It's like they're back in COVID 4 years ago.
Yeah,
There's like two or three people in the department, and then it's talking to an echo chat. Oh, if you get this number, and then it's just ridiculous. It's totally dysfunctional. Totally dysfunctional. You can see it because the roads are full of potholes. The bushes are all over. You know, it's like these are basic things that need to be kept
and
taken
I got
care
to
of, and
tell
they're
you,
not doing.
round by me, who was out cleaning? Well, there was so much snow yesterday. Who were out cleaning the roads and the lanes? People, the farmers were. The
Yeah,
farmers were out there. They cut the hedges round
yeah,
by me. It's all the, you know, the farmers taking care of it.
yeah.
And this is the thing. Local people are going to have to take back, you know, some of the sovereignty and stop expect, you know, we can't expect the councils to do it because and therefore why are we paying all the council
We
tax
don't need
as
them.
well?
Don't need it
Because
for
they're not,
anything.
what are
Yeah,
they spending the money for? My mum just said to me, I
don't
think
need it.
Is it Portsmouth or Southampton, they've gone bankrupt, and
They're
you
all
know,
bank. They're all like this. Definitely here it's bankrupt. It's you can just see it. It's like they're bankrupt. Maybe they've declared it publicly. They haven't said it, but they're bankrupt, full on. Like Nottingham, I think, or Leicestershire went a few months ago. They're all. I reckon 99.9% of them must all be bankrupt because you look around. It's like they just left things. It's just derelict. They're bankrupt. But
because
people are
they've been
still under the
wasting the
umbrella of,
money.
yeah, they steal it, they embezzle, they don't do anything. Oh, we'll get back, and then they try and send out. It's like Richard Vobes is good on this. He knows all this. It's like they're bankrupt. People don't need them. People should just say, no, we're gonna take care of our community. We're gonna do our bit, and just ignore that entity because it's fictitious. It's a legal fiction. It's bullshit, and they don't serve the people. You talked about the farmers. So when you said that, it made me think of the Amish. Out in America, the Amish
Yeah,
people were coming out and voting for President Trump because they're sovereign. They're a sovereign nation, aren't they? They're
yeah.
peaceful, and they were supporting him because they can see the journey that that's going to take them on.
And they generally don't get political, but they've seen what's happened.
Yeah.
Um, you know, mandate